Today we're going to talk about Lightroom 6. So today we're going to talk about how to announce. All right, we're talking about Lightroom 6 out here. So welcome back to Photography After Hours. So I'd like to introduce everyone. We have Steven, Susie, Scott, and my name is Nick. We are sponsored by PAC, the Photographers Adventure Club. You could find out lots more on photoadvclub.com. So just recently, Lightroom 6 or Creative Cloud CC just came out, and we wanted to talk a little bit about this. One thing that I'm thinking about before we jump into that is Creative Cloud is not the best name for it, because it's not really a cloud application the way you normally think. So like Gmail's cloud-based, like you have to be online to actually use it. For these Lightroom and Photoshop and all these CC ones, you actually just download it. It goes on your computer like the regular program, and then it just pings in once in a while, every month, or I think every 30 days it'll ping in.
It'll ping every chance it gets, but if it can't, you've got 30 days before it says, sorry,
we can't connect
to the internet. And
so you have to have internet, but you don't have to be logged on, and it's not on the cloud. You're actually still getting the actual physical program. You just don't get the disk anymore. So I wanted to debunk that because we get that question all the time, and it's another myth that we can bust out there.
Yeah, people don't want to, they assume that they have to be connected all the time, so then they decide they don't even consider CC
because of that.
Because they think they're going to be...
Now, there are some features that are cloud-based, but it's not the program part. So
nobody gets the cloud. Nobody understands. What is the...
That's why it's a cloud. It's changing, it's morphing.
Nobody gets the cloud.
So I don't want to get into the weeds with that, but some of the new features that we are talking about today, one of the big ones is high dynamic range photography. You can actually do HDR within the program and save it as a 16-bit RAW file. Yep. Which is like epic. That's pretty cool.
It really is. When you're going in to edit things, you've got a much bigger range. We were talking about 10 stops either side of
10
zero.
stops both ways.
When were we talking about that? just minutes ago. It's
a few moments.
Almost
minutes. Take one.
So you get a 10-stop slider now, where you can slide a lot more and get all the way up to white and all the way down to black when you slide it.
Yeah, it's truly enhanced dynamic range, and it is a raw file, so you have all the goodness of capture straight out of camera kind of thing.
And you and Susie was saying with the HDR features, you were going and doing a bunch of different processes in Photoshop before.
Yeah, when you go into Photoshop, and there are a lot of different ways that you can go about building an HDR file, and you can use third-party apps and things like that, but just going from Lightroom into Photoshop and building your HDR and then coming back into Lightroom, there are a few different steps, and streamlining it so that you stay on the Lightroom side of things sounds pretty attractive. And it sounds to me like they may be leveraging some of the logic that they have in their 32-bit feature in Photoshop in order to give you that 10-stop range. But it sounds like it's still saving as a 16-bit file, right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that it's not. It works a little different from the other programs in the fact that it doesn't give you the tone mapping that like Photomatix does.
None of the presets are there.
Yeah. So it basically just kind of fuses the exposures together. And then allows you to make further adjustments in Lightroom.
It's doing more of an image blend.
Yeah, it just blends
so
them.
it's blending them rather than trying to HDR.
But you need the presets because Lightroom has presets, and you could do all that in there. So it's almost like redundant. You have presets in these other programs, and you have presets in Lightroom.
I don't doubt that somebody out there is still coming out with the grungy look and the painterly look and all that fun things.
Yeah.
You'll be able to download those and put those in. But
I was hoping that would just go away.
I
wish they would have fixed that.
So other photographer features we see them adding into Lightroom is panoramics. So you can do panoramics in there. It seems to be the trend that they're pulling these photographer features out of Photoshop and adding them in, which is good because, like you said, it's a photography based.
It's built for photographers.
Built for photographers.
So it makes sense. It stands to reason that they would want to pull those common functions into Lightroom and make them more available to people that have Lightroom and that don't maybe yet have a comfort level for all of the tools that are in Photoshop. You have to kind of go hunting around for things in Photoshop, whereas Lightroom puts them right at your fingertips.
And you don't lose the connection now. So a lot of times I'd go out into Photomatics or go out into Nik software or go out into even Photoshop, and if you did the process and saved as instead of save, it wouldn't come back into your catalog
lose
correctly.
your connection. Yeah.
Now you don't have to worry about that. So it's seamless now.
It's
Yep.
right there.
It's right
When it
there.
works.
So the Pano, you can actually take your panoramic and select everything, and it's going to actually make it. It opens a second window up, and then you have the same kind of options in there too, where you have your spherical and all that stuff in there.
Spherical, cylindrical, and perspective, I think, were the three they gave you. They cut out some stuff from Photoshop, but
The stuff you never
those
use.
aren't used very often.
Well, there is one thing I wish that they did have, and that's the lens correction, or what I like to call it, the horizon correction. So a lot of times your panoramics, they end up being a little bit warped or a little bit twisted, and it's nice to be able to just drag, a level and then have it just kind of warp it so that you get your horizontals and your verticals. I wish that they had something like that, like some kind of lens correction feature that made it really easy to just kind of straighten them out.
I ran into a kind of similar problem with the GoPro. It has a wide angle lens on it, it's a little bit fisheyed. And I tried to pull those straight in to make a panorama in Lightroom, and it says, I'm not going to do that. You're going to have to go into the lens correction in Lightroom and fix it. And there are presets for GoPros in there, so it's really easy. You just choose them. You can also do a little bit of editing and do some straightening in Lightroom. So I do that as well because the GoPro is hanging from the bottom of my quadcopter, and sometimes they're a little crooked anyway because the wind is blasting
How
around.
strong is that correction for a GoPro in Lightroom? Because I see even in my wide angle lens, if I'm shooting at 10 millimeters, which on a crop sensor it's about 16, it still has some distortion even after I've applied my lens correction.
Still there.
Yeah, there's still a little bit there.
Doesn't
So how
flatten
strong
around
is
the
it
edges,
for GoPros?
people are leaning
'Cause
away from you.
GoPros are like really wide.
Yeah,
Really
like
strong.
fisheye.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of real
It
wide.
is
really
like a
is.
fisheye.
Well, it depends upon the settings that you're using in the camera, but if you're using it all out, you're going to get that fisheye effect.
And then it'll stitch, but after you've done the correction, it'll stitch it together fairly well,
stitch
fairly
it
accurately.
Okay. There are still errors in the file that I created. I want to go back and play some more and see if was it my straightening that caused the problem. If I left it alone, would it have found it? How much did my fooling around before mess up the panorama on the end?
Mess it up,
Gotcha.
yeah. So I like that they're adding these features in there. We've heard a lot that it's faster, and I see it faster on import. I'll see my previews pop up, but you were saying that when you're actually importing them, I think you were saying that too, is that it's taking longer to make the actual preview. So you'll see an initial preview of your tiny little one, but then when it does the actual previews, it's taking a lot longer.
It is on my machine.
Yeah, I was hoping it'd be a little bit fast. I noticed a slight increase in speed, but I was expecting like
Mega fast.
Yeah, I was expecting like instant pop up, of my thumbnails and image, and there's still a bit of like processing going on. So it's
Better to cook dinner.
it is an improvement.
Yeah.
It's, in my opinion, it's a slight improvement. It's not
Not
Some of that delay or whatever is going to be just dependent on technology of the hardware and being able to move data at a certain speed in
Right.
general, right? I
Well,
mean, Lightroom can't accommodate for all of that.
the way it works is that it's now utilizing your graphics card, and so it's allowing your graphics card to help render those thumbnails. So I imagine if you had multiple graphics cards, or if you had a machine that was built that way, it might be faster. But and I have heard rumors, when it was in the beta stage, that they said that it is going to utilize more of your system's hardware. And so this may be one of those instances where, if you had better hardware, it might speed it up a little bit.
speed up and see it more noticeably.
Right.
I tell my wife that because
Yeah, Christmas.
upgrade is always a good word for me.
So some other cool new features you're going to see if you upgrade to 6 or CC is face recognition. And we were talking about how that is pretty much like your Facebook, where you can tag people in your pictures within Lightroom. And what it makes is a keyword. So it's making a specialized people keyword so that you can go and individually tag everyone in this picture here, and then it maps it out on the actual picture, so you can do big group photos, stuff like that. So what do you guys think? Is this a worthwhile feature, something you'll use?
I haven't tried it yet.
I clicked it. It's like 10 more years before it finds all the faces.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to
You
press the
clicked
button.
I did not click it. I have no interest in it. They've had face recognition in Photoshop Elements back in version 5 or 6, and it was just annoying to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm already keywording with names of people that I think I might be searching for.
Sure.
And if I don't know who you are in the picture, then I really don't care.
It's like, which one's Bobby O? Isn't it?
That face is going to pop up, and it was always a process that was interrupting what I was doing. So I'd be editing something, or I'd be selecting things and stacking them, doing normal
Going
tasks.
about your business.
And then
Pops up.
this
It's like a
dialog box would pop up and go,
Oh.
we're recognizing faces. Would you like to work on that? No. And 5 minutes later, it would pop up again.
See,
It's
luckily
nice
this
that
one
can
is you
shut
have
it
to
off.
click on the people button and you can pause the process from searching. And I think once it finds everyone, then it's just an ongoing update. What's good about it is when you find someone, it finds similar people like that. And it says, is this Aurora? And you could say yes or no. Is this Steven? And there's all these people that it suggests it for you, which I thought was pretty cool. And then you can just drag and drop them up to it, or you can just click yes, the checkbox, or you can type in a different name.
The interface is cool, but I just don't.
Yeah, I don't know how useful it's going to be, but it is in there, so it's a benefit. I guess we'll see how people are using it.
And when you export out too, I think you can turn that kind of keyword filter, that face keyword filter off.
On or off, yeah,
Right,
depending. If you're shooting high profile weddings.
Right, so it does kind of separate itself from the rest of your keywords.
Yeah.
And it kind of acts as like an additional filter overlay. So
yeah, exactly. So it might be good if you're searching family stuff, or if you shot clients or models or certain people that you're looking for. Now I don't have to do, just a splash. Okay, all of these are Aurora. I can just type it in and it'll come up with just the people keywords. So if you're shooting the Aurora Borealis or the model Aurora, it's not going to cross over. So. Not that you have that problem that often.
That's a good point.
that's not a problem.
That's a something.
Yeah, it's a good way to illustrate the separation between the way it's keywording.
That they're separate people keywords.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that can be
so
really
if you're
useful.
searching someone with the name of May and you took pictures of May flowers,
right, or April or whatever,
April.
Everybody names their kids after.
See, we found a useful feature
Cheyenne,
for you out of a non-useful one.
Wyoming or Dallas. Like I know people with kids named Dallas.
Yeah.
So I think the separation of two could be
Can't
useful.
hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge one, and we've talked about this before. We've played with it. We demonstrated the other night in Lightroom Tips class. Is the gradient filter and the radial filter. Now you can add. You were telling me about this. I didn't know you could add, but I knew you can erase. So you you can mountain pops up, or a tree pops up, or the barn like in the back there. You can erase out. But you were telling me you could add also.
Yeah, this is my favorite feature of all time. I've been wanting it forever. They added.
I put a good word in for you with Levi.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll get this in. I'll hook him up.
They added the paintbrush to the gradient and radial.
Like the adjustment
feature.
Brush, right?
Yeah, so you can drag in your gradient or drag in your radial filter and then paint in additional areas or erase additional areas. So that is a huge feature. I use that all the time.
I've always wanted that, and I work around it because before this version, I have always had to work around it from one angle this way and then another angle that way. And, you're working with 3 or 4 different gradient filters to try to...
And you end up with something that looks like an HDR sky that's overdone.
Yeah. So now you can just simply go, okay, I can just fix the peak of that barn.
Because you'll end up with a double gradient in the corner, where you're trying to cover 2 different areas.
Did you mean to say it also works with the radial filter, or was that just a mistake?
No, it works with...
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, it works with the radial.
Awesome.
Yeah, they added the paintbrush to the gradient and the radial filter.
Yeah, because no matter how hard I try, bees are not oval or round. So
No.
When you're trying to make, add some clarity to the bees so that that's the point of view in a flower shot or something, sometimes you're getting other things with clarity and it's just not quite right. And it's something I think only another photographer would notice, but
Maybe, but we're
but if you want to do it right. Yeah. So cool. It makes it easier.
Oh
yeah. And you don't have to go into Photoshop, because that's what I would typically do. Is the gradient filter was a little too clunky for most of the photos I was trying to use it on, and I'd end up in Photoshop with several layers where I'm selecting by color or highlight or something like that, and I'm having to make a complex selection and then applying changes at a layer level and then going back into Lightroom, and now you wouldn't have to do that.
Definitely. So the last and other of all the features they've added is slideshow upgrades. So the slideshows were lackluster at best before. They did simple picture, 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 song. You can add, 10 songs now to one slideshow, which I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could if you wanted to chop them up.
Yeah.
And you could pan and zoom. So they're not like just next picture, but they were just
Less
very...
boring.
Yeah, they were just very simple slideshows, which is good for the average person. But I know when I did my slideshows for weddings or Sweet 16s or proms, I would use like ProShow Gold and Producer because I can make it zoom in and zoom out and do all this
you
crazy
add some
transitions.
movement to it. It keeps interest. If it's just a slideshow,
It's just boring.
People lose interest right away. And if you're putting something together for an event, and especially like if it's going to run during a reception or something like that, it's going to keep people's attention if it zooms in and out. And I mean, I think we all kind of expect that lately.
Well, Ken
Why
Burns,
would
thank
it
you,
just be a...
The what?
Ken Burns, that was his idea.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had all these pictures from the Civil War, but they're pictures.
Yeah.
So instead of moving the picture around, let's move the camera around. That's actually a Ken Burns invention.
Nice.
Cool. So the slideshow doesn't suck as much anymore, so that's good.
Less suckage.
Less suckage.
Now, some things I wish they did.
Here we
One
go.
feature.
There's always
One
something.
feature is in is for the albums. I wish that they didn't just use blurb
Oh, yeah.
as your album.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that you could do custom sizes and actually create custom layouts and custom sizes.
I think when they envisioned it, they added blurb on with the intention to add other albums on, but they haven't yet. So,
But they don't need to add different albums if all they just did was just add the ability to be able to create custom sizes. So do that next time.
do that next time.
I thought
Levi,
they had
watch
provided-
this.
I thought some of the companies that also do albums had plugins that you could use within.
Yeah, I mean, I use third-party album builders and things like that for my albums, but it would be cool if they had it built in Lightroom. It just
So new things for Lightroom CC version 2.
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
7 or 8.
7 or
something.
So
Yeah.
cool. Down below, tell us any cool new features that we missed or that we didn't see yet, or if there's anything new that's been updated since this came out. Put them down there. Let us know if you love it, you hate it. And then did we talk about, I'm totally spacing that, did we talk about how this is probably the last version of Lightroom 6?
It's
It's not going to be
probably the last one that you can get on a hard
DVD.
media.
DVD. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the other big thing about the Lightroom is that it's now a member of the Creative Cloud family.
So let's cheers
So-
to that. Welcome to the Creative Cloud family.
All right, cheers.
All right.